All right, so let's get started. Why do I have a unique perspective on this? Well, just by way of background, as a medical doctor, I actually specialized in the field of physical medicine and rehabilitation. And that was very fascinating because I had to learn the neurology very deeply. I had to learn the central nervous system, so the brain and the spinal cord. I had to learn how it integrated with the peripheral nervous system, so the nerves that flow out of the spinal cord into the arms, into the legs. Those nerves from the central nervous system flow out to every single organ in our body, including our bowels, our kidneys, our uterus. Like everything is innervated by the central nervous system. So it's this beautiful network of the central and peripheral nervous system. I also had to learn how that nervous system interacted with our tissues, so like the body chemistry. Okay. And because I am a researcher, in my previous life I was researching the central nervous system very deeply. I had to learn about the different parts of the nervous system that are what we call voluntary control of the nervous system and involuntary control of the nervous system. So voluntary part of you, that's like working on the money part, the money wound, the core money wound, and you're like consciously thinking like, okay, no, I have money, I'm a successful woman, I have like this amazing business, it's thriving, or I know it's going to succeed, it is success, I'm living my success, my abundance. But if you ever like stop being conscious and you kind of dip into your subconscious kind of thinking, your previous patterns will start playing themselves out, and you might find yourself, for example, reacting in a way of scarcity, like in a scarcity mindset, in a scarcity mind, because that's what was laid down in your subconscious, in the involuntary portion of your mind. Okay. And so, like as an example, there might be like an amazing offering of a program that you know would be helpful, would help you achieve your goals. However, when it comes time to like buy the thing, something triggers you, and instead of being very conscious thinking, you get into your subconscious like scarcity. I don't have the money, money doesn't grow on trees, you have to work hard for this, so I'm not going to buy this thing. If you make a decision based on your subconscious conditioning, you're going to make a decision based on the core wounds that you had laid down as a child, because most of our subconscious is programmed between the ages of birth and 7 years old, because in that state, during those years, we're in like a hypnotic state. The brain waves, if you do EEG, which they do with people having seizures, in research, they use the same equipment to look at the brain waves, and from the age of 0 to 7, we're in a brainwave state of hypnotism, which means that everything gets laid down into your brain without any filter. So if you're hearing, scarcity around money, or you have issues with safety, or you are afraid of things, you're going to be laying down these kind of like fearful patterns and problems with money patterns into your subconscious, even though consciously you are aware of the fact that you are no longer a child, you're a grown woman, and you are empowering yourself by pursuing your dream or whatever that might be, raising your family, being present with your children, but you find yourself acting out in ways that are not in alignment. And the reason for that, not in alignment with what your consciousness is telling you, is because you're actually going down into your subconscious programming. It's a default setting. Why does this happen? Research shows that we spend only 5% of our awake moments in our conscious state, in our voluntary state, okay? Which is kind of crazy if you think about it. Only 5% of your waking moment, you are having voluntary control over your experience, okay? 95% of the time, it's your subconscious mind, subconscious part of the mind that's running the show. In medicine, in neuroscience, they call that subconscious part of the mind the default mode network, which is really an interesting name that they chose for that, because it literally is the default mode. If you are not very present in the moment, paying really good attention to what you want to do, say, or think, or feel, you're going to go into your default mode network. And depending on how you were raised, your default mode network might be one of like fear and scarcity, right? And what that means is that, let's say something happens in your life to trigger you, like someone says something about money, or they say something about sex or religion or politics or whatever that might be. If you're not very present and very aware and very controlling of what it is that you want to think, feel, experience, or say, right? You can be triggered into your default mode network and find yourself reacting in a way or saying things in a way that are not in alignment with the person that you really want to be, right? That you consciously want to be. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions. So far, what I've done to recap is I've explained how in the body, there's a voluntary part of the nervous system and an involuntary part of the nervous system. Voluntary is like muscle movements. Involuntary is like the heartbeat and the breath. But there's a portal between voluntary and involuntary, which is the breath. You can actually control the breath voluntarily, and it's also controlled involuntarily. So you can access through your voluntary breath the involuntary nervous system, because your breath then spreads and affects everything else. It affects your heart rate, it affects your sweating, it affects your digestion, it affects your bowel movements, everything, right? In the mind, there's a voluntary conscious voluntary conscious portion, and in the and then there's a subconscious portion, which I just went over, okay? And the portal between conscious and subconscious is, first of all, the portal is awareness, okay? So many people don't even realize that there's a voluntary part of their brain and an involuntary part of their mind and an involuntary part. Once you become aware, so now you, the listener, are aware that you have a part of your brain, of your mind, that is, you have control over. If you pay really good attention to the present moment, you can control your thoughts, you can control your emotions, you can control your reactions, you can be the person that you want to be, right? And then there's a part of you that's the subconscious mind, the default mode network, that if you're not paying attention, you can quickly be triggered and easily slip into your very old ingrained patterns of behavior that may or may not be in alignment with the person that you want to be. And so awareness is that, because you can actually start to train your subconscious mind by being very specific with your conscious mind, and the conscious mind and the bridge between that is your thoughts. So if you are very, very, very good about while you're in consciousness, making sure that you are more in consciousness than is the normal for most people. So if most people 5% of the time is being in consciousness, if you want to start to retrain your subconscious, the first thing to do is to try to be more conscious, try to be more in the present. Notice when you start to slip into unconscious pattern behavior and pull yourself out of that and then get back into the conscious present moment. So that's one major thing. And if you practice that and you allow every single waking moment, like every single conscious moment, to be designed the way you want it to be. So the second step is to design your thoughts. And you are the only person who can do that. So if you find yourself thinking like, I am not worth it, I don't have time, I don't have money, I wish I had this. You take that piece of yourself that's under voluntary control and change your thoughts voluntarily, just like you change your breath voluntarily, okay? You can have involuntary breathing and voluntary breathing. You can have involuntary thoughts and voluntary thoughts. You have to change your thoughts to be the thoughts that you want them to be. So if you find yourself thinking, I don't have money, you say to yourself, I am abundance, right? I am gratefulness. I am love. I am peace. I am wealth beyond measure, right? I am successful beyond words. And the more that you train your conscious mind to be more than that 5% of what you usually are in consciousness, and while you're in that consciousness, to be the consciousness that you desire, you start to retrain the subconscious mind. Okay, repetition is key, right? Especially when you do this before going to bed. Now, why is the before to bed time super crucial? Because that's the time when, remember I said we're in a hypnotic state, brainwave state between the ages of 0 to 7, where things get laid down without any filter. That's proven by science with EEG measurements that people use in research to measure brainwaves. Once we get out of that 0 to 7-year-old stage, there's only a few times we're in that state. And those few times are just as we fall asleep and when we wake up, falling asleep and waking up, under hypnosis and meditating. So if you direct your conscious thought to think the thoughts that you really, really want to have be part of your conscious and subconscious programming, particularly as you're falling asleep and if you're a meditator when you're going into meditation, you're going to create a stronger connection between your conscious and subconscious, and your subconscious will start to actually reprogram itself, again, like a tape recorder, to actually carry the thoughts and be more in alignment with your conscious thoughts. Okay? All right. Now, I talked about body and I talked about mind. And if you jumped in late to this, you'll definitely want to watch the first part of this recording, because I talked about the same parallel in the body, which is very fascinating. So what is the bridge between the mind and the body? And I'm going to make an argument for this. It's that it's the feelings. It's the emotions. Okay? So what do I mean by this? Okay, let's say you have a thought. Let's say you have a really positive thought. You say, I am grateful. I am grateful. That thought generates activity in the brain. That's the mind-body connection. Okay, mind-body connection. You have the thought. Remember, the neurosurgeon opens up the brain. I've been there with a neurosurgeon opening up the brain. You see the brain, but you can't see the thought. The thought is part of the mind. The brain is part of the body. Okay, so you have the thought, and the thought gets programmed. The thought generates activity in the brain. The brain generates its activity, and then the brain will generate neurochemical changes in the body that go with the emotion. So let's say I say I'm grateful, but I'm actually not feeling grateful. There's a disconnect between the thought and the emotion. The thought and the emotion. Okay. There's if you think I'm feeling grateful but you don't feel I'm feeling grateful, there's no mind-body connection. Would you agree with that? Like, raise your hand if that makes sense to you, right? If you think I'm feeling grateful but you don't feel in your body that you're feeling grateful, if you feel fear, if you feel anger, if you feel anxiety in your body, there's a mind-body disconnect. So in order to have a mind-body connection, the key is the feelings. You have to bring feelings into it. So let's say I'm thinking I am grateful, right? And I'm thinking it, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm not actually feeling it. So now I'm going to think I'm grateful, and I'm going to feel I'm grateful. I feel it as like an opening in the chest, a relaxing of my jaw, relaxing of my back muscles, of my neck muscles. I start to smile because I'm feeling so grateful. It's almost like I almost start to tear up because it's so much gratefulness is being brought into my body. And you know what's happening is that as I'm feeling the emotions of gratefulness, not just thinking it, but also feeling it, the bridge between the mind and the body, the thinking and the feeling, that connection, that generates neurochemical impulses, hormonal cascades that then travel through the body. So it activates the brain to release hormones that get dumped into the bloodstream. Those hormones, which are messengers, travel within the blood. They connect to organs within the body, and they tell the organs within the body, this is the emotion of gratefulness. Emotion is energy in motion, and what is in motion in our body that goes throughout our entire tissues is hormones and the nervous system impulses. So if you think I am grateful and if you feel I am grateful, that will activate certain parts of your nervous system. Remember, the central nervous system, the brain, and the spinal cord. That'll generate a certain pattern of neuronal impulses. Neuronal networks will get activated, and they travel out through the body and initiate a cascade of chemistry that is in alignment with your emotions. So you've got your hormones working for you emotionally in your feelings, and you've got your nervous system working for you emotionally. We know the power of this through science because people have been involved in research studies where they are looking at really horrible conditions like chronic pain, like really bad chronic pain, like, you know, or even cancer, oh my goodness, like even surgery, like things for which surgery is usually done. And they do like these tests where they divide the people up into two groups. One group gets the drug or the surgery. The other group doesn't get the drug or the surgery, but they don't know. In the surgery group, non-surgery group, they'll even like cut an incision through the belly so the person actually thinks they had the surgery. Like they even have like the stitches and the scar afterwards. And 30% and on average, 30% of the group that thinks they got the pill or thinks they got the surgery will improve, will be healed, will heal themselves. In medicine, that healing effect is called the placebo effect. And it is such a powerful effect that it's the reason why when you're studying a drug, you have to do what's called a randomized controlled trial, divide the two groups up and blind them. They don't know what they're getting because 30% of the time, the people who don't even get the drug or the surgery will feel better. So this group who did get the surgery or the pill has to do better than the 30%. They have to do above 30%. They have to do better than that because the other group will do 30% better. And it's the difference between these two groups that they have to measure because of the placebo effect, because of the self-healing effect. Why are these people self-healing? Because they had a thought that they were getting the treatment. They had a feeling of gratitude. They could feel in their body the improvement because they were so convinced. They used their power of their imagination. They didn't know that they were using the power of their imagination, but that's what they were using, right? It's not the power of the drug. It's not the power of the surgery. They didn't get that. They used the power of their imagination, and the most powerful imagination is the one that comes on with the feeling. So they induce the feeling within their body. When you interview people who have had the placebo effect, what they say is that I felt the improvement in my body. I knew, I had a faith that I was getting the drug, I could feel, or getting the surgery, I could feel the drug or the surgery working within me. I could feel the improvements happening in my body. And all of the research tools that these researchers were using measured the improvement in these people. Okay? 30% of people. Now, why 30% and not 100%? Okay, well, you could say, well, the other 70% probably didn't believe that they got the drug or the surgery. They might have lacked imagination. They might have been indifferent, like not invested in it. So they're like, I don't really care if I get the surgery or the pill, so whatever happens will happen, right? So in order for you to really, really build up that mind-body connection, you have to think and use it to your advantage. Because here's the thing, you don't want to just information, not know what to do with it. You want information. You want to harness the power of the mind-body connection so that you can make things happen in your life that you want to happen on purpose. You want to have good health on purpose, not by accident. You want to create a state of thought and gratitude and well-being on purpose, despite external events happening in your life, despite all the chaos in the world. You want to be happy regardless of external circumstances. That is truly what everyone wants. It's very hard to be happy if your health is like not under your control and it's just doing what it's doing and you have absolutely no power over it, right? So what I'm teaching you is very powerful because you have to understand that there's a voluntary part of what you can think and a voluntary part of what you can do with your body that can access the involuntary parts of the body and the mind. And there's a bridge between the two that you can access through your thoughts, feelings, and imagination. Because the imagination is what's required to have the feelings. It's very hard when you have, for example, cancer and you have a tumor that's like in your body. You can feel it with your fingers, right? That's like, here it is. It's this tumor. It's hard. And then I tell you, I want you to feel, I want you to have the thought that you are whole, perfect, and complete, right? That you are health. And I want you to have the emotion that you're whole, perfect, and complete as well. How hard would that be if you didn't have imagination? You tell me, right? Yeah. Kristen here is saying, thank you for joining, Kristen, saying, great info. Thanks for sharing. The subconscious mind is so powerful. I became certified in hypnosis to help bridge the gap in the mind and body connection. Yes, like I said, the hypnosis is one of the states that we're in where we're not filtered. So we don't filter the information as right or wrong. We just download that information. So it's good to have people like Kristen that you can trust. You definitely don't want to go under hypnosis with someone that you can't trust. You will no one will ever be able to lay down information that you do not want. So you can reject information in the hypnotic state. However, you want to only accept information in a hypnotic state that you want to become a part of you, of who you are, your default mode network. Okay? And the breathing part is important because remember, I told you can access the involuntary part of your body with the breath work. So if you're a person who tends to be very stressed out, high levels of anxiety, and you simply can't get yourself there with your thoughts and your feelings, use the breath. And one very simple breath that is taught is called the box breathing. There's so many beautiful different kinds of breathing, but for the purposes of time, your time and my time here with my time limit, I want to teach you the box breathing. And so it's literally like you breathe up 4 counts, hold 4 counts, breathe out 4 counts, hold 4 counts. So if you have an opportunity, do this with me. Ready? Breathe in, hold, out, hold. Nice. That already is so helpful. Can you imagine if you brought that into your day whenever you could feel that your thoughts and your feelings were starting to get out of your control? You needed a portal into the mind-body connection. The breath is one way to get in there. Once you reset your nervous system to the state that you want it to be in, which is one of relaxation, then you bring in your other tools of being conscious, focusing your attention on the thoughts that you're having, using your imagination to have the feelings that align with the thoughts, allowing those feelings to run through your body. And those emotions, they generate chemistry in the body. The chemistry affects your bodily tissues. And this is a topic for another day, but research has shown that the chemistry, the chemicals, the molecules of emotion associated with negative emotions are very harmful for the body tissues compared to the molecules of emotions that are associated with good feelings. For example, cortisol, a hormone associated with stress and anxiety. Oxytocin, a hormone associated with unconditional love. Two totally different effects on the body. Disease, vibrant health. Okay? And I'll be teaching more about this in the future. I just wanted to just bring your attention to this mind-body connection. This is the way that I see it. It's my hypothesis, what I bring to the table. I hope you found this helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. If you like the way I teach and you think I've got more to say, join my Facebook group, Wild Wisdom for Women with Dr. Patricia Mills, MD. It's in the discussion of these events if you're joining me live on Facebook. I would love to see you there. You just have to agree to the group rules. I show up every day doing things like this, tips and lives. Every Wednesday, I bring guests and I interview them. You're so welcome, Jessica. My absolute pleasure. And I hope to see you all there. I hope you're having a wonderful rest of your day, evening, or night, depending on when you watch this replay. Thank you so much. You're so welcome, Sola. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. You're amazing. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Mwah.